Well, our top story this hour is the Boeing 737 MAX crisis. CEO Dennis Muilenburg is set to face scrutiny this morning from lawmakers in 2 hearings on Capitol Hill this week, following Boeing's 2 fatal crashes within 5 months that killed nearly 400 people. It is Muilenburg's first congressional appearance as CEO and the company's first executive to publicly testify on Boeing's role in the tragedies. The first hearing happens today. That is before the Senate. That comes exactly 1 year to the day after the Lion Air crash in Indonesia, the first of the 2 crashes. In his prepared remarks, Muilenburg admits the company's errors, saying this: "We know we made mistakes and got some things wrong. We own that, and we are fixing them." Joining us right now is Georgia Congressman, member of the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, Rob Woodall. Congressman, good to see you. Thanks for being here this morning.
Good morning, Maria.
So Dennis Muilenburg is going to testify before your House committee tomorrow. What are you planning to ask him? Tell us where the most important issues are to probe.
Well, we've got to find out what in our purview, what in the regulatory process made the system harder to protect safety. That's everyone's shared goal. Here we are on the 1-year anniversary of the Lion Air crash. We've seen the report come out of Indonesia, and they recognized a number of problems, some in terms of changes made during the approval process, and some in terms of outdated regulations that we can play a role in fixing here on Capitol Hill.
Well, what role did the FAA play? I mean, did the FAA, was it not aware of the readiness of the jets?
Well, we haven't had an opportunity to question any FAA officials from the Obama administration when this process was going on. But what we do know is that it's a very fluid process, and this MCAS system that has gotten so much attention, it was originally approved for one purpose, and then it was changed to try to achieve some different goals. That was not scrutinized as carefully as it should have been, even if it complied with the letter of the regulation. It didn't comply with the spirit of the regulation, and we want to get together and not just look at the last tragedy, but make sure the next tragedy does not happen.
Right, of course.
Congressman, how long does this process, help us understand how long this process takes? So obviously this is the 1-year anniversary of this tragedy. When do you suspect we're going to have enough information to say, okay, we've gotten to the bottom of this, and 737 MAX is either going to go back up in the air or it's not?
The shortest answer is it's not going to go back up in the air until everyone is satisfied. There are no fewer than a dozen different investigations going on. Some of those have been completed, as the Indonesian investigation has, as the Joint Aviation investigation has, but some are still ongoing, as is Ethiopia. And so we want to gather all the facts, and the even greater, again, than looking backwards is looking forwards.
Right.
We have the best aviation system in the world here in America. We are protecting American citizens here. We don't want to throw the good out as we try to identify the bad. And keep an eye out on Capitol Hill today. You'll see the Senate called not just the Boeing executives, but also the National Transportation Safety Board, also the chairman of the Joint Aviation Review Board.
Okay.
We only called the Boeing executives here on Capitol Hill, and I don't want a witch hunt. I want a productive investigation that gets us to conclusion and more safety here in America.
Congressman, it seems to me that Boeing's crisis management here and their discussions with the American people about what actually happened has been abysmal. And I wonder if, A, you agree with that, and B, what your advice will be to the Boeing executives about, we just read that statement, which was a move forward and taking, the blame for this. But it just seems like they've been way behind the curve in terms of explaining to the American people what happened.
When you have a close regulatory relationship, as the FAA and Boeing have, you rely on one another, you get technical data from one another, you have an approval process. Sometimes I think folks are too slow in accepting responsibility. I think as consumers, what we want are companies that do accept that responsibility.
Yeah.
There's no bigger loser here than the families of those who perished first, and then Boeing as a company second. So these companies have every every incentive to provide 100% safety, and we need to be good partners in doing that. Why is it Boeing tried to bootstrap this 737 model under the original certification certificate instead of coming out with the new model that they wanted to do? And the answer is years of regulatory delay.
Congressman, let me switch gears, asking about the impeachment inquiry, because we see this change is occurring today. A National Security Council expert will testify that he had concerns over the president's July phone call with the Ukraine president. It comes as House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says that now the House will vote this Thursday to formalize the impeachment inquiry. Republicans are sounding off. First, let's hear from Senate Judiciary Chairman Lindsey Graham on this. Got to get your reaction. Watch.
Impeachment based on the phone call between President Trump and the Ukrainian president is dead on arrival in the Senate. He did nothing wrong. I've seen no evidence of misconduct by the president at all. This whole thing is a sham. And if you're going to start this process in the Intel Committee, it's incumbent upon every American to know who the whistleblower is, because without the whistleblower, there would be no inquiry.
So, Congressman, a lot there. The whistleblower, do you want to hear from the whistleblower at this point? And how will you vote when it does come down to the floor?
Well, since I don't sit on the Intelligence Committee, Maria, I still haven't been able to have free, unfettered access.
But she said she's going to bring it to the floor for a House vote.
Well, that's very interesting. I mean, good for her, thinking of abysmal crisis management, how it is that she can admit that this should have been done in front of the American people to begin with instead of behind closed doors. But my understanding, Maria, is that she's not going to take it and put it in the Judiciary Committee where any impeachment proceeding belongs, that she's going to keep it in Adam Schiff's Intelligence Committee, where the doors could still be closed, where access could still be restricted. I confess I just don't understand if this is supposed to be a transparent process, what role the Intelligence Committee has going forward. Yeah,
so just to be clear, if she brings it to a vote for the House, how will you vote?
I have seen nothing thus far, Maria, that leads me to believe this president ought to be impeached. Now, the Democrats have the votes to do it. They can make impeachment a political process if they want to make it a political process. But again, they've done all the investigation behind closed doors. Now they're bringing it to a public vote. How about a little investigation out in the public before you bring something to a vote? The vote is too long in coming, but transparency has been too long in coming as well.
Congressman, thanks very much. Good to see you, sir.